So a lot of people think finding time is about waking up at 5 a.m, working even faster and squeezing even more into your day. But in my opinion, if you don't change how you choose what goes into your day, you'll wind up feeling exhausted and still feeling behind. And for me, I work full-time as a lawyer, I exercise almost every day, I work on videos like this, and I still have time for my friends and family. And it's not because I'm some productivity robot, it is really just because I have learned how to be deliberate with the time that I do have. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the exact steps that I use to find time for everything that matters, even with a demanding full-time job, while still having some breathing room to enjoy life. Because life, it's really not something you find, it's something you make. Okay, so step one is really around a bit of a mindset shift. And it's firstly to try to get out of a bit of a victim mentality that you don't have time. And I do get it, like for a lot of people, you will have a lot of things going on in your life and it can feel difficult to have time for the things that you want to do. But the reality is, we really are in control of our own time and we can find time for the things that we want to do. And if we're not, the truth is that we have just not learned how to prioritize appropriately the things that we want to do. And so we need to accept and understand that and get out of that victim mentality and realize that we do control our time and we just need to prioritize it more effectively. And so once we've accepted that, we can move on to step two, which is really all around learning how to prioritize your time. And to do that, my big recommendation is to time block. And I am a massive fan of time blocking. And I really do think that we should almost try to time block as much of our time as possible because it really does do just that. It helps you to prioritize your time effectively. And by time blocking, I think what it does, it really gives us like a clear sense of direction in terms of what we want to work towards. And it just makes things so much more easy to do and you'll be able to achieve so much more. And like when you kind of sit down and try to think to yourself, like, what do you want to do? By time blocking, it just takes away any of that decision fatigue because you will already have it all mapped out for you and you will know what to do. And so firstly, when it comes to time blocking, I would try to block out all of the non-negotiables in your life. And so for most people, I think work will be like a massive chunk of their day. And so I would just block out whatever work hours you have every day. And I would also include in there like any commute to work you have as well, because that's most likely time that you're not really going to be able to spend doing anything particularly productive. Sleep is another thing that I think everyone should be prioritizing and making sure they're getting enough sleep. And so it might be slightly different for everyone, but maybe it's like 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep every day. I would block that out too. And then other things I think you just need to think about a little bit yourself. Like what are the other things that are non-negotiables in your life? i.e. like things that you really have to do for your life to be operating how you want it to. And so for me, there's a couple other non-negotiables that I would put in. So number one is exercise, because I love exercising. It's like a passion of mine. I feel way better when I do. And in reality, I like to pretty much exercise almost every day. And so I will block out like 1 to 1.5 hours every day for exercise. And then the other thing I do put in as well is just dinner time. I will block that out as half an hour in the evening for dinner each day. Lunch and the other meals throughout the day, they kind of just get consumed within the work hours. And so I don't need to do that. But ultimately, just try to think what are the real things that are absolute non-negotiables in your life and then block those out in your calendar. And once we've got the non-negotiable downs, we then move on to think about what are the other things in our life that we 100% want to do. And here, what I would try to do is to actually set some goals for yourself and think about the things that you want to achieve. Because I think once you have those goals, you can then try to figure out like what you're going to need to do to achieve those goals and how many hours you might need to do those things. So as an example, like for me, this YouTube channel is something that I've really wanted to work on and prioritize. And I decided that I wanted to work about 10 hours every week on this YouTube channel. And so knowing that, I then go back to the calendar and think to myself, all right, I need to fit in 10 hours here of YouTube time throughout the week. And once I've kind of understood that, I will then block out throughout my week the times in the week that I want to be focusing on YouTube. And doing this, I think it really just brings a real like sense of intentionality to your time. And it will then give you a clear sense of direction in terms of what you're working towards. And I think a realization that you might get also by doing this is that you will see that you can do anything you want, but you probably can't do everything you want. Because say like you've thought about that initial goal, say it's the YouTube and you've gone 10 hours there and you've done that, you've plugged that into your time blocking calendar. And then you come on to, all right, well, there's this other thing that I want to do. If you then decide that for that other thing you need like 5 more hours and you go back to your calendar, but you see, actually, I don't really have these 5 hours. At that point is when you need to think to yourself that ultimately, if you really want to do this other thing and spend those 5 hours, you are going to have to sacrifice something else. So maybe in that example, it would be you can only spend 5 hours on YouTube instead of 10 to free up those 5 hours. Or maybe you need to go back to your non-negotiables and think about some of those. Maybe it's like, all right, I can't spend an hour and a half going to the gym every day. I can only spend like 45 minutes for the 6 months or whatever. But ultimately, what you need to see is that everything that you want to do, it does come at a time cost. And so you basically just really need to try and get clear on exactly what your priorities are, plug those into your calendar, and then you can see if they are realistic to be able to do within the time that you do have. And if they're not, you might then have to play around with cutting out other things within your life. And a final point just on this time blocking is some people might think it's a little bit tedious to have to like block out all of your time, but I really promise you, as I said, it gives you that sense of direction to work towards. It will allow you to get way much more done. And also once you have plugged in all those main things that you want to do, you might then have some other pockets outside of that, and you can then use those pockets for other things that you might want to do, or you can just use those pockets to guilt-free, like relax and chill out and just do like pure things of enjoyment that you want to do. And then step 3 is to actually follow through with the things that you've said you're going to do. Because ultimately, yes, it is all good and well to identify these things that you want to do and then put them in their calendar, but it's not going to be any good if you don't actually follow through in terms of doing those things. And so there's a few things that I would say here to kind of help you follow through. So I think one, again, is like a bit of just a mindset shift. Like you just need to tell yourself that these are things that you've identified you want to do and you just got to do them. And what I would say here is that I wouldn't try to rely too much on motivation all the time, because motivation with some of these things, it will come and go. But what you need to realize is that you might feel unmotivated and like you can't be bothered to do things, but you can still just decide that you're going to do them anyway. And then once you actually start getting going, it's probably going to feel easier and you'll start getting momentum and you'll realize that you still can actually achieve the things that you want to. The second thing here I would say is to try to design your environment to work for you. So you want to make like good habits as easy to do as possible and bad habits be difficult. So for instance, like if you want to go to the gym early in the morning, maybe you set out all your gym clothes the night before so that you can literally just get up, you've got the clothes right there, and it will be easy for you to get up and get going. Or on the flip side, in terms of like a bad habit, like maybe if you don't want to eat as much junk food or just clean up your diet a little bit, well, just like clear out all the junk in your house and make it easier for you to eat healthily. And so ultimately, just try to optimize your environment to be working for you instead of against you. The third thing here is a bit more of like a mindset shift again, but it's to try to treat the things that you want to do like you are going to the cinema. And what I mean here is that when you go to the cinema, before you go in, you will probably do like some preparation type things to make sure that when you sit down, you can actually just focus on the film at hand. So it's probably like you go to the toilet, maybe you get yourself some snacks, you maybe send any text messages that you need to before you go in, and you just do things to then be as engrossed as possible in terms of watching the film that you're going to watch. And so when it comes to work, I would try to do similar things as well and just basically do everything that you can to get in the zone so that when you sit down, you can actually work as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And then finally here, I would just say to also look after yourself. And so that means eating healthily, prioritizing sleep, exercising regularly, trying to minimize your stress levels. Because if you're doing all of those things and really prioritizing them, you should then feel better, feel more energized, feel more motivated, feel more productive, and you will just be more likely to be able to do the things that you want to more easily and ultimately follow through with all of those things. And so there you go. I think it is not so much about finding time, it is more about making time. But I promise you, if you follow those steps that we went through, making time really does become that much easier, and I'm sure you can do everything that truly matters to you. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I will see you in the next one.